Good afternoon. My name is Alexandra Sanchez-Maldonado, and for my project, I decided to focus on the Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act, also known as HIPAA. A brief overview of some of the things I will be discussing. I'm going to be giving an introduction, history and law summary, talk about key impacts, real-world example, then talk about digital records, AI and big data, and contextualize all of this through a current context news article I found, and to finally the conclusion and references. So to begin, what is HIPAA? Well, it was passed on August 21st, 1996, and it sets the standards for protecting healthcare and medical information. It gives patients the right to decide how their information is handled and shared. A short overview of how the act came to be. As I mentioned, in 1996, the act was passed. However, it did take some time before there was full implementation across the country, and this can be seen across the board with all of these rules/acts. Um, it takes a while for the new policies to be put in place into every single healthcare system and hospital and such. However, with that said, in 2013, the privacy rule came to be, and this provided the framework for how PHI or protected health information was used and shared, and it gave individuals authorization over their PHI. 2 years later, in 2005, the security rule came to be, and this did sort of the same thing, but it's encompassed electronic health information as well, or EPHI, and it also provided safeguards for being able to transfer, manage, store, and share that information. A year later, in 2006, the breach enforcement rule came, and this defined how the Department of Health and Human Services, HHS, enforces HIPAA. It basically gave HHS more of a reach in terms of what they can do. We gave them more action and more power to take action. So for example, it gave them the permission to investigate violations or issue fines and such things like that. Um, Moving on, in 2009, the HITECH Act came to be, and that stands for the Health Information Technology for Economic and Clinical Health Act. And this, once again, just furthered the Act's reach. And one of the ways it did this is by encouraging the use of health technology, that encourage the use of technology to help make the healthcare more systems more efficient and also just safer in terms of digital data it has. And one of the ways in which this was done is through encryption, for example. Finally, in 2013, the final omnibus rule was passed, and this just clarified gray areas by further specifying definitions such as workforce and providing guidelines and just closing up any loopholes. Now, as for some of the key impacts that the act has had, the four main ones I think I found were that, well, number one, patients have control over their health information and how it's shared, and this helps make privacy more of a priority within the healthcare system. It also changed how hospitals and insurance companies manage PHI and forced healthcare systems and hospitals to modernize with secure electronic records. Um, Again, one of the ways they did this is through encryption, but also the use of tools such as access controls. Finally, repercussions are put in place if privacy is violated in order to protect individuals. A real-world example of this was the Montefiore $4.75 million settlement. So between 2013 and 2015, an employee at the Montefiore Medical Center, which is a nonprofit hospital in New York City, accessed and sold over 12,000 patients' PHI to identity thefts. New York police departments were notified on May of 2015, launching an investigation. The medical center agreed to settle the investigation and pay the 4.7 million penalty to resolve the alleged HIPAA violations. This is just one way to show just how important it is to put in place safeguards to ensure that this could have been stopped sooner, and also just shows the extent to which you can be fined for doing such a thing, or companies or hospitals can be fined. Moving on to digital records and how this relates. As I mentioned, HIPAA applies to all electronic PHIs, and this includes, but is not limited to, things such as emails, cloud storage, and even USB. Access controls, audit logs, and encryptions are a few of the ways systems keep data safe. However, some wearable devices and apps don't always fall under HIPAA, which raises new risks. And with that is also tied in the rise of AI. So moving into AI and big data, as I mentioned, the Act does not fully cover AI tools. And for big data, although it offers many helpful benefits, there is an increased privacy risk because of it. And since more third parties get to access, since oh, sorry, I forgot to mention, because some of the benefits that big data offers is helping hospitals run more efficiently, like reducing wait times or matching patients to clinical trials that they may be um, that they are fit for. Um, However, because of this, and since most of these tools use AI, this means that more third parties get to access PHI. And currently at the moment, there isn't necessarily something put in place that defines this. So in the future, new laws or updates will be needed in response. So how this all ties into the current context, Aflac had a data leak. On June 12th, Aflac, a health and life insurance company, reported a breach on its US network that may have exposed customers' personal information. The attack was stopped the same day it was detected, but the case is still in the early stages of investigation, so the number of customers affected is still unknown. There are over 50 million Aflac members. This case highlights the need for strong safeguards and response system. It also shows that even insurers, not just hospitals, also play a key role in keeping PHI safe and secure. I think this was also a good example of just how extensive it is to be able to keep data safe. Not just safe, but also all the different companies that also have access to data in some way, shape, or form. So to conclude, HIPAA sets the standard for how private health information is handled. It ensures privacy, security, and accountability through its various rules. And as new technologies continue to emerge, there are more gray areas in privacy risk, which leads to an increased need for new laws or updates to the Act. Here are my references. Thank you very much.